Independent analyst Shaun Dendere joins us now for a full look into the day that was in markets. Shaun, thanks so much for your time today. Now, we briefly spoke about that sell-off we are seeing in markets really being fueled by tech counters. And now it's been also interesting to see that despite that deal making is still taking place. We just heard from Microsoft and Nvidia investing in Anthropic. We also have those Nvidia numbers out tomorrow. What have you just made of everything that's happening? And I guess the tech players, tech companies themselves, somewhat shrugging off what's been playing out in markets.
No, 100%. I think if we look at it from an index perspective, right, it's just representing what's happening with the share prices. But if we look at the fundamentals of these companies this year, the fundamentals are still strong, not what's reflecting in their share price. And it's also quite nice, when the share price does go down, it makes it easier from a deal-making perspective because it makes that deal go in a little bit cheaper. So we'll note that the deal-making is going to carry on. A lot of these companies have a lot of free cash flow, as we have noticed this year. I think this year has been quite a big year when it comes to M&A and acquisitions and so forth. I mean, even Berkshire Hathaway also invested in Nvidia today, if I'm not mistaken, or they made an announcement showing that, there is still a drive and hope that, this AI so-called bubble is going to carry on climbing into the future.
And it's interesting to see how different companies are playing this tech sell-off. I mean, you just mentioned the Berkshire Hathaway investing in Nvidia, and not too long ago we saw SoftBank selling its stake in Nvidia, not on the back of the tech sell-off in particular, but I guess also timely to what's taking place at the moment. So, some buying opportunity, some M&A activity ensuing in markets at the moment. And I have to ask, with that negativity filtering through to local counters as well, are you seeing this as a buying opportunity for SA Inc. stocks in particular, especially as those fundamentals, of course, improve?
No, 100%. I think this is potentially a good time to buy from an SA Inc. perspective. If we look at, we just came off the grey listing. We just, what just happened this past week?
The S&P.
It's escaping my mind.
The S&P credit
the
upgrade.
S&P.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a lot of great news. It's unfortunate that in South Africa we are marred by negative news, but there's a lot of green shoots from an economic perspective. I do foresee a turnaround on that side, and from a valuation perspective versus the US and the UK, our shares are actually quite cheap. So therefore, I think this is potentially a great time to dive in.
All right, let's look at some company news. Telkom really coming out of the gutter quite strong. It's been, I guess, a long, almost 2 years of that turnaround strategy, selling companies that don't fit into its strategy moving forward, and also getting its balance sheet in order. The data-led strategy also just fueling momentum and fueling earnings growth on that front. Is this one you've been looking at closely, particularly because it's also had a strong foothold of the prepaid market compared to its competitors?
100%. I mean, you did mention that it is a strong turnaround. If we look back 2 years ago, I would have been surprised that Telkom is where it's at. Looking at their results, across all their divisions, if we look at OpenServe, BCX, Telkom itself, they are all in the green, showing that their revenue has grown, their operation costs are down. So, and from a management perspective, I think during this turnaround, the management team has done really, really well in order for us to see this. And from a data perspective, like you said, it is catering for the prepaid market. Telkom, generally speaking, I'm really generalizing here, does come in a bit cheaper. Therefore, you can see them monopolizing the market to a certain extent. And they also have always historically had the infrastructure to offer, these data centers, the fiber, et cetera. So I think it's going to keep going on and going strong.
And quickly, before we get into your stock pick, what have you made of, I guess, the Ackerman family selling that stake that they hold in Pick and Pay, which has reduced their voting power to around 37%. How are you reading it? I mean, it does seem like, I guess, some sort of market confidence, considering that there had been concerns around governance and the family's involvement in the running of the business.
100%. Good question. Following on from Telkom, I think Pick and Pay is also going through a massive issue in terms of their growth, their balance sheet, and so on and so forth. So, with the family stepping away, this was part of their strategy when they instilled the current CEO, who was also a former CEO. And in my honest opinion, I think from a layman's terms perspective, I respect the move. For them, it seems like it's a good time for them to step back, let new blood come in and re-strategize their company. So hopefully they can have a similar turnaround like the one we're seeing with Telkom.
Yeah, we cross our fingers and cross our toes. Shaun, I've taken up all our time and I cannot get into your stock pick, but we will catch up again and you'll let me know where you are seeing opportunity. Now, that was...
Okay, perfect.
Sure. That was independent analyst Shaun Dendere.